curators are there as a bridge between the artist and the audience so that the audience
Right.
gets to understand the brilliance of the artist better. Artists have very unique points of views that are not typical of normal people. That's why they're different. And for a, for an ordinary person to see the world through the eyes of an artist,
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful and successful exhibition kung magagawa yun.
Hi, Ricky. Kumusta?
Hi Marty, magandang hapon.
Magandang hapon. I'm really honored and glad to have you here in our vlog, mARTy Talks.
The honor's mine.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know you're a busy guy, but I think I always believe that art curators have an important role in the art industry. Your work is as valuable as the artists themselves. So yeah. Um, so tell us about the Fundacion Sanso. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I'm here right now. I'm at Fundacion Sanso.
yeah.
It's a small private one-person museum. It has the collection of Mr. Juvenal Sanso, who is a visual artist who has been given several awards by the Philippines, by Spain,
Mm.
and by France for his work in art. And we have been free entrance since 2019,
Oh,
and our programs are catering to a variety of audiences. We believe that art should not be exclusive to a certain segment of society, but should be enjoyed by all. So we try our best to reach out to as many people as possible.
right. Okay, that's really good to know, and especially the free part, free entrance part. Yeah, yeah. So you're located in San Juan, I believe.
Yes, we are at V. Cruz Street in San Juan. If you're coming from Green Hills, you pass through Wilson and you
Yeah.
turn right at P. Guevara. May makikita kayong Petron station. We're just behind the Petron station in front of North Park.
All
Yeah.
right. That's great. Yeah, I remember that North Park noodles.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we used to live in San Juan also. Yeah, yeah. All right. So, but let's go back to your personal history. When was the time that you told yourself that you're going to be an art curator? What was the influence behind that decision?
To be honest, I think it was 2017 or 2016 that I only started using the title of curator.
All right.
But I have been making exhibitions since 2010 or even a little earlier. But I come from the generation of museum workers who were not trained formally in museum work.
Hmm.
During the time kasi, in the 1950s and 60s, malakas pa yung ties natin sa different embassies noon. Museum
Okay.
workers were actually sent abroad to be trained.
Right.
During my time, if it was your interest and you were lucky enough to chance upon an opening, museums will just train you in the process.
Right. Right.
Parang
Right.
ganun. And my training, to be honest, I graduated socio-anthro, so it's anthropology and sociology from the Ateneo de Manila University. But my first focus in museum work was registration and I take care of the objects. I take care of the records of the objects. So I got trained in preventive conservation and
Yeah.
also in restoration before I actually engaged in exhibition making. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. No, because I was about to ask you this question. How does one become an art curator? Meron bang educational path? Do you need certain qualifications like master's degree or PhD, something like that,
Right now, there are curatorial studies here in the Philippines. So parang ano lang siya, 2016 lang nagsimula around that time. And of
Okay.
course, there's a lot of education abroad that are really for curators. And I know of some of my colleagues who have actually been trained as curators.
Okay.
So, pero ako, my training was actually parang on the job itself.
Hmm.
And working with other curators in the process. There's a funny thing that Riel Hilario, who's a visual artist, he said in one of his posts, an artist is gauged by the body of work of the artist. Sabi niya, hindi mo kailangang maging formally trained to be an artist, to become an artist. Parang ganun. So,
Yeah.
marami siyang sinight na examples of successful artists na talagang doon na naging artist. So, in our case, sa curatorial work, marami rin akong colleagues who dove in and became curators because they love exhibition making and curatorial projects.
Right. Okay. So you were before Fundacion, you were in working in Lopez Museum, no? Bakit
Yes.
ka nag-switch to Fundacion?
ano, I was offered the role of directorship dito.
Right. Okay.
So I thought it would be a good forward step because I had some
Yeah.
ideas that I could not implement in at Lopez Museum that I could implement here. For example, yung free entrance and programs that focus on mental health. Dito nagagawa namin kasi yung collection ng Fundacion Sanso lends itself to that.
Okay. Yeah. So you have many roles, no, as a art curator, no. Isa na doon yung mga pag-authenticate ng mga yung origins of composition, or origins or composition, history, tsaka ikaw rin nag-a-assess ng current value of artworks, no.
Ah,
Ano ba doon yung pinaka-challenging part ng job?
I would like to correct yung idea kasi we have a panel, designated panel who does the authentication.
Oh, okay.
So we have several people entrusted by Mr. Sanso whom he worked with for more than a decade each individually, and they're the ones who assess the authenticity of the artwork. And if there is not a unanimous decision, kung kunwari 2 out of 3 say it's authentic,
Hmm.
hindi siya nai-issuehan ng papeles.
Right. Okay.
As for the market naman, the values, that's gallery work. Right now, since I'm more engaged in museum,
Hmm.
we don't focus on the monetary value. The galleries know that kasi it's a function of demand and supply. Unlike kunyari bigas, which is regulated yung prices, art is luxury na hindi siya in the open market. So
Hmm.
an artwork may fetch as high as anyone would want to offer the price for.
Yeah.
Parang,
So you were not part of the authenticators.
oh, no,
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
only screen. I'm part of
Right.
the
Okay.
I'm part of the screening process.
Right.
So kung kunwari from the onset merong mga parang red flags, minamarkahan ko na yung papel na
Okay. Okay. So tell us how you organize and prioritize your work. Planning.
well, organization by urgency. Marami kasi talagang ginagawa dito. As
Mm.
director and as curator, they're two separate things. So dito sa pagiging director, you're also focused on making the museum sustainable. Unlike Ayala Museum kasi that has a foundation and several corporations to back it up,
Yeah.
Fundacion Sanso funds itself. So in order for the museum to survive and for the staff to continue to be employed, it's my job to make sure that everyone is safe, number one. And number two, we have enough money to keep on going. Yung scholarship program
Right.
namin,
Yeah.
museum operations, yeah. As curator, my focus is more on the education. How will people know the
Mm.
aspects of Senior Census work? Kung kunyari dito sa Censo as curator. Pero kung kunwari, because I'm also doing independent curatorial jobs. So I
Okay.
work with artists independently and I work with galleries independently. So each of my focal area, iba-iba yung hinihingi nila of me.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, um, give me an example where when you thought outside of the box. Paano nakatulong yun sa museum?
Well, for example, I'm really not good at questions like this. Pero did you know that, for example, this ECQ, sarado kasi dapat ang museums.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
museums are closed even up to GCQ level. Pero despite us being closed, we were able not only to sustain the operations, but increase our scholarship and increase
Okay.
the visibility of Mr. Senso. And we did that through marketing efforts, creating products that people could buy, and offering different services and partnering with other institutions. So I think to be able to surpass yung normal na kinikita namin during regular times,
Yeah.
during the time na sarado kami, I
Yeah.
think that's a lot of thinking out of the box.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the reason why I asked that question is because of the current pandemic. So you have to be have to think of something to make the museum afloat. Because it's not only challenging for the museum, but for everyone.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Um,
yeah.
we're
Sorry.
happy to share that despite being privately funded and despite the pandemic and ECQ, we have been able to donate. May mga tents ngayon sa Naga, COVID tents that are funded by Fundacion Sanso.
Yeah.
We have been able to support our barangay dito sa kanilang projects ng relief.
Mm.
So may excess kaming nagawa on top of the normal
Yeah, that's
na
really good.
ginagawa ng museum. Oo.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay. So, how do you judge artworks, for exhibition? Yung museum ba, is it open to controversial pieces of artwork like nudity or pieces that are critical of religion or politics?
Ano Fundacion Sanso has it has the DNA of Mr. Juvenal Sanso in a sense.
Yeah.
And Mr. Juvenal Sanso focused on artworks that helped him transcend trauma. So our focus is really on that. While we do exhibit nudes, for example,
Mm.
because Mr. Sanso has nudes and
Yeah.
some of them
Yeah.
are very erotic,
Right.
okay kami doon. Pero Mr. Sanso's path was not overtly political. So we
Mm.
don't engage in art that is overtly political and overtly critical of religious views. Dito sa Fundacion Sanso.
Yeah.
Pero I did have exhibitions outside. Like I worked with Ben Cab, Julie Luch,
Yeah.
Julie Luch Dalena, Anil Doloricon, and other
Yeah.
social realists. And we had exhibitions that focused on human dignity during the EJK, yung rise ng EJK. We
Yes.
had an exhibition at FEU,
Mm.
and it was pro-human dignity. So it was quite political.
Right. So, wala naman naging problema. Nag-
Wala naman, awa
uh,
ng Diyos, awa
mm,
ng Diyos.
mm. Okay. So, what work of art most affected you personally and why? Can you describe your emotions? I mean, dun sa mga na-exhibit mo na, no?
You know, mARTy, I wasn't really an art lover when I was young. I was more focused on science and archaeology and all the stuff that normal boys like to focus on.
Actually,
Um,
that's what I heard.
so
Yeah.
mahilig talaga ako sa animals and ganyan.
Yeah.
So when I landed a job at the Ayala Museum and I was tasked with recording the works of Fernando Amorsolo and Fernando Zobel, and
Yeah.
we had around 500 artworks of Philippine artists as well as foreign artists in the collection. My focus was more on yung preventive conservation aspect and yung kanilang physical wellness kumbaga ng artwork.
Yeah.
Pero the first time I actually got inspired by a work of art was when I was in Rome. I arrived early for a workshop and I was at the Vatican. I was just walking around the garden and this statue of Lao Kun and his sons was there. I
Mm.
didn't know that it was in that collection. And tinignan ko siya, na-shock ako kasi this was 2,000 years old. And it was
Yeah,
so perfect. Yung symmetry niya, if you look at it in the round, you would see parang scalene triangles na pare-pareho ang ratio. Kunyari, in relation to the
yeah,
head, to the hands, and to
yeah,
the ganyan. Everywhere you look, there's that golden triangle
yeah,
that you see in all of the angles, from the smallest detail to the biggest composition.
yeah.
It took me an hour just looking at one work, and I could have stayed longer if I was not in a rush,
Mm.
and
Mm.
changed my perspective about art.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So from then on, parang nagkahilig ka na sa arts, no?
Oo,
From
as in
the
talagang
influence.
genuine na hilig
Oh,
na, and
oh,
genuine appreciation, hindi lang for the beauty of it, but for the capacity of an artwork to inspire awe, for the capacity of an artwork to inspire you to change your mind about something, to reconsider your position.
mm.
Yun yung nakaganda sa akin sa na
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah. That brings me to the next question. No? Among the collections that you have exhibited, ano yung pinaka-favorite mo?
uh, I will always look back to the Ayala Museum collection because I was so fresh
Mm.
noon. I wasn't really focused on 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 art at that time. Pero in the Ayala Museum collection, the museum has a number of pre-colonial artifacts,
Yeah.
and some are so intricate that it boggles the mind how they would have been able to do it
Mm.
with the technology that they had at that time.
Yeah.
So that's one. And Lopez Museum collection, it's so deep. Ang dami-dami niyang collection na napakamahalaga that it has to be seen by more people talaga.
Mm. So, sa mga yung pinakamaraming work na experience mo, which the more challenging na work among the museums that you mentioned, Ayala and or
Well, the challenge is always different. As I tell some of my friends, working for a museum, you think it's boring, you think na parang nothing ever changes.
yeah.
Pero actually, every day is so different. May araw na kunwari, may isang collector na galit because of some minor thing.
Mm.
May araw naman na isang artist darating and may gagawin siyang intervention doon sa museum space na magbabago yung pananaw mo kahit doon ka nagtatrabaho for several years.
Yeah.
So every day is so different. Every challenge is nakaka-enrich talaga siya.
Okay. All right. So, was there a time that you went beyond and above your call of duty?
Always. I
Always.
think I think museum workers, cultural workers, artists, there's no it's not a very, how to say, it's not an equitable exchange because you always do something because of passion.
Yeah.
Example, to set up the exhibition that I told you about, yung kay Cab, all of
Mm.
us work pro bono, and even naglabas pa ako ng pera just to help set it up
Okay.
talaga. And I do that for most of the exhibitions that I feel strongly about. And I
Right.
don't, as a museum worker, as a cultural worker, I don't make a lot of money. It's
Mm.
really because you love what you're doing and you believe in it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the fulfilling aspect of your job is that you're enjoying it, no?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
worked for a USAID funded project before, health related, and it was also fulfilling kasi you see real change in terms of yung nadadala niya sa mga barangay, ganun. Pero iba yung happiness ko dito sa museum work.
right. I understand. Yeah. So, if you could start your own museum, what would it be about?
If I could start my museum, I'd probably have a contemporary art museum that would support younger artists, artists who have not yet proven themselves but are full of potential. the systems here in the Philippines are not very favorable for young artists. They're very favorable for very established artists, pero for a
Yeah.
young artist to break in, it's really hard. And if I had a museum, if I had a limited amount of money, I'd focus on young artists.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. I'm sure a young artist would be, really would be, uh, want to be part of that, museum. So, d- do you have any future shows lined up for this year?
Well,
Still from then?
marami kaming shows. I'd like to invite people to visit the podium. We have a show there by national artist Aguilar Alcuas. I'm working with Art Lounge Manila. And not many people kasi, especially the younger generation, not many of them have seen works by Federico Aguilar Alcuas.
Yeah.
He's one of the national artists that we have na yung best works are in private collections. And this is a rare chance na libre na, nasa mall pa,
Yeah.
makikita mo yung different types of works ni Alcuas. And
Right.
maganda yun. So that's currently ongoing until it's going to last, I think, for around a month. We have several exhibitions here at Fundacion Sanso, and meron din akong, I'm working on something currently na focused on um, Sanso and World War II. So that's for the latter part of the year.
Yung podium, this is the one in Mandaluyong, no?
That's, yes, nasa
Yeah,
likod
yeah,
siya ng
yeah.
Megamall, katabi ng ADB.
Right, yeah. Tagal ko hindi kasi nakakapunta dyan eh. Yeah. So how do you promote your events and exhibitions? Do you
Well, I work with different teams.
mm,
Here at Fundacion Sanso, we do our own marketing and promotions. Most of it is via social media, but we also have our contacts with newspapers. So it's mostly newspapers and social media. Pero in terms of the galleries, iba-iba yung strategy. So each gallery has its own trick to
mm,
market the show.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So do you have any wisdom for aspiring curators, young people who wants to be an art curator someday? Anything?
Ako ano lang eh, I would say that if you really want to be a curator, just go for it. Work with artists that you believe in para mas maintindihan mo yung ginagawa nila. And the curator, just to be, this is just my personal my
Yeah,
personal belief. The curator is not a meta artist kasi some curators use the artist and their artworks to showcase their own agenda. I think it
right,
should be the other way around. Curators are there as a bridge between the artist and the audience so that the audience
right,
gets to understand the brilliance of the artist better. Artists have very unique points of views that are not typical of normal people. That's why they're different. And for a, for an ordinary person to see the world through the eyes of an artist,
yeah.
I think that's a wonderful and successful exhibition kung magagawa yun.
Well, that's some words of wisdom from Mr. Ricky Francisco. Maraming salamat sa iyo. This is a short, no, because I know you're too busy, no. You're yeah, you have a lot of things to do. So anyway, I'm really proud and I'm really glad that you were able to join us here in the mARTy Talks. No, maraming salamat for your time.
mARTy, ako yung dapat magpasalamat. Thank you so much for having an interest in the work that we do. And more power to mARTy Talks.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
More power to you also. Maraming
Thank you.
salamat.